All right, good morning. Sorry for the sound of my voice. I've been really sick and just coming out of it. I apologize if I cough a few times. Today I'm going to show you how to use the off-the-shelf SuperMacro vanilla add-on to steal functions from my code that are fun and great to use without having to learn all of my code or how to multibox or anything. I do write a lot of functions that are just everyday functions that make my life easier. You can steal them by just using SuperMacro. So go to Google search and search for SuperMacro vanilla add-on. Legacy WoW add-ons. This one on GitHub is probably safe. So you're gonna go to clone or download. Download zip, and when you download the zip file, you're going to say extract to, and then you're going to extract it to your, it's going to be really hard to see this on my tiny 4K monitor, text, World of Warcraft, your World of Warcraft directory interface add-ons. Once you do that, you have SuperMacro. It's not the SuperMacro I recommend. I recommend you going to my website and downloading the SuperMacro that is in my multiboxing package, because it has a lot of extra goodness in it that you can access pretty easily. But forget about that for now. What I want you to do is just download stock SuperMacro. Then you can go to your World of Warcraft directory for your vanilla WoW, go to interface, add-ons, and you're going to have a SuperMacro directory. This is all going to be really tiny text. You probably can't see it, that's okay. I'm going to blow some text up here pretty soon. So go to your SuperMacro directory, and what you're going to see is just probably a bunch of Greek text here that you can't read. Sorry about that. Limitation of streaming. But one of these files in here is called sm_extend.lua. It's blank, right? In the SuperMacro delivery, it's blank. The great thing about sm_extend.lua is whatever you put in there becomes accessible in the game. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'll explain that later. Sorry. But just remember, sm_extend.lua, that's the file you want to work with. You don't have to touch any other file here. Now, go to my website. Let's bring it up real quick. My website is furyswipes.wix.com/mysite. And it looks like they've even changed the name of it. Furyswipes.wixsite.com/mysite, but the old one will still work, I'm certain. Furyswipes.wix.com/mysite, and click on the downloads button. Download release. At this point of making this video, my release is up to 11.18.17. That is the SuperMacro that I use to clear MC up to Major Domo and kill Jindu in ZG. If you download that, go to Displace and click the downloads button, and then you download it. Then you open it up. Go ahead and unzip that to another place. Don't unzip that to vanilla. Don't unzip that to your vanilla WoW directory. Just unzip it to another place. Go down into the add-ons SuperMacro directory and look at my sm_extend.lua. All right? Now you've got my sm_extend.lua, and I want to today direct your attention. I'm going to make this text really big so you can see it. I want to direct your attention to some things you can copy into your smextend.lua, save it, reload your user interface, either by getting out of the game or getting back into the game, or typing /script or /reload UI. Let me show you what you have to type. I just make a macro for it. It is right here. /reload UI. Now /reload UI doesn't exist in Vanilla WoW. It only exists when you install SuperMacro once. Alright? Once you have SuperMacro in, you've got this /reload UI at your fingertips. I just make a macro out of it. Whenever I have to reload the UI, you'll see me press this little icon in the lower right column of my 2 right bars. Okay, so Todd, I've got my SuperMacro loaded. I've got your smextend.lua open. What can I get out of this if I don't want your whole multibox madness code? Let me actually make the font a little bigger than this. Okay. Let's look at search by function. So you want to find any line that begins with function. Any line that begins with function is a command that you can run if you copy it to your smextend.lua. You can now run that command in a macro by typing /script command name. Like in this case, it would be clear raid targs. /script clear raid targs. I'm not recommending that one, by the way. Don't take that one. Let's find some functions that you might like. I wish I could give you this one, mbfind. Ah, it's so good. That's where you type /find and any kind of item string, and it finds in every window you have open. So every one of your multiboxers reports which of that item he has in which bag and how many he has. I love that function. Let's find you a function that, let's say you're not a multiboxer, but you just want to borrow some stuff from me. The one I would recommend is buystacks. That's the first one I'd recommend. I wrote this a couple days ago. You simply type /script buystacks open paren close paren and put it in macro. What buystacks does is whenever you have a merchant open, like the reagent vendor, buystacks buys however many you're missing instantly in one click. All right, and it's all self-contained, so you can see how he did it. I apologize in advance for tables in Lua. They're terrible. I hate them. I'm sure a lot of people hate them, but they're powerful. On the other hand, this buystacks function starts with 2 important tables. Tables are like collections of things related to other things. So notice I have wild thornroot equals druid. Druids buy wild thornroot, right? Ironwood seed equals druid. Druids also buy ironwood seed. Sacred candle equals priest. Okay, so you kind of get where this is going. This is a list of what different classes would buy. You can edit this list, just keep the syntax exactly the same. Then I have a limits table. The limits table has things like wild thornroot equals 320. Well, you can imagine what that means. That means if I have less than 320 wild thornroot, I'm going to buy up to 320. All right? You can change these numbers to whatever you want. Ironwood seed equals 60. Okay, I don't need a lot of ironwood seed. Sacred candle equals 640. I need a fuck up a lot of sacred candles, because 3 spells I cast for buffing use sacred candles. Ankh equals 30. Blah blah blah. Arcane powder equals 320. Rune of portals, rune of teleportation 40. Well, I don't need 40. Anyway, you don't need to just use this for buffers. I'm using it just for buffers right now. Anyway, anywhere you see, I'm going to teach you a little Lua today. Anywhere you see 2 dashes, that's a comment. That means it doesn't do anything when you click your macro and it executes this function. All right, your macro is going to look kind of like this. I'm going to show you how to do it. Let's say you've copied this chunk of data, this chunk of code into your smextend.lua, and this is a good chunk to start with. All right, just start with this because you can use it when you're single boxing. You've copied this chunk of code into smextend.lua, and you've reloaded your UI. Showed you how to do that. Now you want to do it. Now you want to use it. So go to your macros. This is the easiest way to do it. Say new character macro. Pick an icon that looks right. This is the most important part. The icon must look good. It must be related. This looks like a coin. So I'm going to call this macro buy. Buy. Looks like a coin. It kind of looks like a coin. I mean, you can make these wow icons look like whatever you want if you're on drugs. So you're going to type /script space buystacks. Buystacks. I think there's an S on the end. Open paren, close paren. You need the open paren, close paren, I believe. You know what? I've never tested it without open paren, close paren. Let's test it without open paren, close paren. Let's see if Lua understands. Oh no, this is a function. So I'm going to bring this down here. I'm not in front of a vendor, so it's not going to really do anything, but I didn't write any code to protect from that either, so it doesn't check if you have a vendor open. Buystacks checking right now. Oh gosh, you can't even see this because it's behind my pretty face. Buystacks check again. Ah, nope. So you do need the parentheses, all right? You can't get away with calling a function without the parentheses. So let's throw those parentheses in. Buystacks now, and it does nothing because I don't have a vendor open, but that's fine. That's how you use these functions. You make a little macro, press the button, whatever. You can also put them in existing macros. Like I put buystacks in my buff macro. So when I'm my buff macro, some of you will know, is my #1 key. When I'm standing in front of a vendor, I just hit my buff macro. And yes, they do buff, but they also buy their stacks. So that's how it's done. Now, let me give you a little parade of some other functions you might, that kind of stand alone that you can copy. So the part you're going to copy, by the way, is from the function buystacks line to the end line that matches it. Sometimes it's going to be hard to find the end line that matches it, but just know that a function end line comes just before the next function. That's what you need to know. If you use VI as an editor, Vim, in my case, if you use Vim for Windows, it has Lua syntax in it somehow. I'm really surprised, but it understands Lua. That's why the lines are all different colors, and it has the program keys all different colors, and it's very helpful to use VI. But VI is more of a technical editor. If you don't work in the Linux world, you probably don't know VI. I highly recommend it to people who are going to edit code. It's fantastic. I never warmed up to Emacs. I'm a VI guy, and this is not just VI. This is Vim. It's a GUI Vim on Windows. All right, shut up, Todd. Okay, so you copy that section in. You have buystacks. Now you've stolen some code from me. You have my permission to steal all my code. Just don't act like you wrote it. That would be very rude. Let's search for some more functions that you might like. Okay, so here's AutoDelete. This is a function right after buystacks. You have AutoDelete. This is a standalone function, so you can actually copy this function in toto. That means in total. And look at all these things I auto-delete. But it's a little smarter than that. See this list? If you add to this list, you can add more things to auto-delete. But it's not just auto-delete. There's a number associated with each line. That number is how many stacks you will keep. All right? If things don't stack, that's how many of those things you will keep. Like Twilight Cultist robes. When I'm farming Silithus, I keep up to 6 Twilight Cultist robes. Okay? 6 stacks. Twilight Cultist robes do not stack. So that means I keep 6 robes. All right? If I said something that stacks, like, what here stacks? Ironweb Spider Silk. If I said 2 on Ironweb Spider Silk, I wouldn't keep 2 Ironweb Spider Silk. I'd keep 2 full stacks of it before I start deleting extra. All right, so let's go down here, and then here's the delete section. Use at your own risk. You'll have to customize your own list or use mine. I don't care. But you can see I delete a lot of stuff you might like. And basically, you'll make a macro that says, auto delete, open paren, close paren. Capitalization does matter. So you notice how the A in auto and the D in delete are both capitalized. That has to match. And then every time you press that, you'll auto delete stuff from your bags. Right? Let's keep shopping. My sort raid stuff probably stands on its own, but I'm not sure if anybody cares about sorting their raid, because raids always change. My raid never changes, so I have sort raids. So let's look for some more functions. Bubble, nah, you won't want that. Raid health, probably won't want that. Party health, nah. Party up, automatic invites to people you know, nah. Follow assist, MB assist, none of that, no. I'm busy, decurse, maybe. Yeah, you can see I love my decurse. Fucking decursive. It is a piece of shit add-on. Interrupts all spellcasting. Yes, it does. So I'm not going to recommend that. Focus disease, no. Party is poison, no. Fade. You might want this, priests. You might want to throw this in somewhere. Auto fade. If you put this in your healing macro, you'll automatically fade whenever an enemy is focusing on you, is looking at you. It's a self-contained function. It could work. Auto taunt, no. Buff cast, dot cast. Okay, here's I'll throw this one out there. You can decide or not whether you want to do it, but I've got a couple of casting functions. Buff cast takes an argument. An argument is something you give along with the function to tell it what you want, to give it more information about what you want to do. In this case, you would give it a spell name. So if you had a macro, for example, that said buff cast corruption, okay? Buff cast corruption, and you targeted a target and you hit that button, it would only cast corruption if corruption wasn't already on the target. That's what it does. That's what buff cast does. It checks for the buff first. But dot cast is one I came up with just yesterday. But dot cast is for dots, because you really don't want to dot up trash and bosses that only have like 30,000 hit points left. Because by the time, well, at least if you're in a raid, by the time you dot them, you've already used a global cooldown. You should have been casting a Shadow Bolt, for example. Or you should have been casting a Frostbolt or a Fireball, not casting a dot. So dot cast, you can put in your casting macros, cast slash script dot cast scorch. All right, scorch is a bad example, but slash script dot cast corruption, cast Shadow Bolt. Right, so you're tapping that during your raid. When something is 30,000 hit points or less, you don't actually execute the dot cast. This is probably too complicated for people, but Okay, this one is very popular with people. StackCast. And you know what? I am going to recommend StackCast. Instead of your Scorch button, is it Scorch? Gosh, I hope it's Scorch. Instead of your Scorch button, you want to Scorch 5 times, right? On if you're a Fire Mage. Instead of just having Scorch out on the bar, instead make a macro that says /script StackCast Scorch, (5). I'll do it for you right now. I'll do an example for you right now. Let's get rid of our buy macro. Oh, we'll just use our buy macro. Oh gosh, you're not going to be able to see this at all. Let me blow this up. Maybe that'll help. /script StackCast. You have to use quotes around spell names. Scorch, comma, and you don't use quotes around numbers. 5. That means it will, when you press this button on your bar, your target will get scorched until it has 5 stacks. When it has 5 stacks, Scorch won't work anymore. Right? So you can put after this cast fireball. Notice I'm not using /script, so the same rules don't apply. Capitalization doesn't matter. Nothing really matters. Cast fireball. Okay? So this could be your spell macro. You could have this as your Fire Mage 2 button, and every time you hit the 2 button, he'll either Scorch because you don't have enough Scorches, or he'll cast Fireball. Isn't that cool? That's how you pro Vanilla WoW. And it only works in Vanilla WoW. This is why I play Vanilla WoW. Alright, maybe you don't want to use StackCast. Alright, what else do I got? More advanced people like stuff like on cooldown. This function returns true if a spell is on cooldown. You can use that to... Man, I'm sick. Write more advanced code. Num shards. Have you ever wanted to know how many shards you have in your bag? There you go, Warlocks. That will print... That will not print, but it will return how many shards you have in your bag. And you can act on that. Number, what do I mean return? What does it mean return? It'll return. Return what? Well, you can use it in an if statement. So let's go back to our macro. You know what? Let's use a Warlock. We're going to use a real Warlock. So you're learning a little Lua today. You're learning a little macro programming today. You're learning a little advanced programming. And as I teach you this programming, remember everything I'm doing here, you can put in your own custom function in that smextend .lua file. All right, here's a Warlock. Hello, Warlock. Let's look at his macros. Whoa, they're full. I'm going to get rid of one. Don't use that anymore. Wow, I'm a terrible broadcaster. All right, let's make a Warlock macro. Lock, whatever. All right, so the macro would look like this. You would say /script if num shards, capitalization matters when you're in script, num shards is greater, is less, we'll say is greater than 20, then print num shards end. Vanilla WoW, you can do if statements, conditionals. As a Burning Crusade, you can't. That's why Vanilla WoW is better. So shut up. Let's bring this down. Put it right there. If num shards is greater than 20, then print num shards. I don't think the num shards is greater than 20. Let's change it to 2. If num shards is greater than 2, then print num shards. What? I have no shards? Come on, sucker. No shards? What have you been doing, Brutalium? Well, I guess this was a bad Warlock to do it on. Let's find a Warlock with shards. Brutalic. I'm just going to print num shards. Do you have shards? He has shards. All right. So you can also do this in the command line. Script. Notice it's like chatting. Print num shards. Notice the parentheses are very important. You have parentheses around what you want to print, and num shards have to end in a set of their own parentheses. 8. Ooh, I have 8 shards. Is it right? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, num shards is right. It speaks the truth. All right, what else we got? Mage water. Skip that one. Has reagent. That will report if you have a reagent. Skip it. Has item. How about this one? In melee range. Sometimes you only want to do things if your target's in melee range. Steal this function. Then you can say /script. If in melee range, then fireball. No, you wouldn't fireball. Then frost nova. End. Anytime something's in melee range, you'll frost nova. That could work for you. It's standalone. What I mean by standalone is it doesn't require any code anywhere else in my code for you to use it. I'm going to scroll through a few more. No, none of that. Maybe this. My rage, my mana, my health. These are just shortcuts. I mean, you can use these if you want. They're shorter spellings of more complicated function calls. How about this? Instant poison main and instant poison off. Let's say you're a rogue and you like to put poisons on. You can assign that to a button. And you can actually, you know, have that button and it won't keep putting poison on. It'll only put poison on if you don't have poison on it. Same with Flame Tongue Weapon. Look at this function, Flame Tongue Weapon. This will make a shaman put Flame Tongue Weapon on his weapon if it's not there. This happens to be main hand. Instant poison main and instant poison off. Right now I've got wound poison programmed. This was just a workaround. I had instant poison commented out and wound poison commented in. You can do the same thing. I mean, you could just change the name of it to poison on off and put whatever poison you want in those. Wind Fury weapon, you know, this is something you could put in your main damage dealing macro as a enhancement shaman, and it would only refresh your Wind Fury weapon when it had fallen off, so you never have to think about it again. Stuff like that could be good. You know what? This is not standalone. It relies on a couple of other things I have in my code, but it's close to standalone. If you copy some of these other functions, you can make it work. But party buff or raid buff, you can have a one button buff for your, even if you're a single boxer, you just like one button buff and buff the entire raid. It'll go look for people without the buff in the raid every time you click it and cast your buff on them. I don't know, it's a little bit more complicated, so I'm not sure I'm going to recommend that one. Resumal. You know what? Resumal is not needed because you've got Talik resing add-on, but Talik does not work with multiboxing. It does a really bad job, so use my resumal function when you're multiboxing. My resumal function isn't perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than Talik. Alright, what else do we got here? I'm not going to recommend these. And then the rest is pretty much... Well, look at my fear break. This is a good fear break for a warrior, an undead warrior. It uses Will of the Forsaken first. If you keep clicking it, it will switch to Berserker stance and use Berserker Rage. It's good for Magmadar and any other fear thing. It will also work, by the way, on it'll also work on a non-undead warrior, just the way it's written. Because it doesn't care if you don't have Will of the Forsaken. It's not going to error out on that. What else we got? Not a whole lot else here to recommend. Maybe my perfect aim. Hunter perfect aim to make your hunter a little better. What it does is it uses race auto shot, the add-on. All right. You have to use my version of it because I make some variables global so that they can be seen in SuperMacro. So in my latest package of add-ons, you can get the new race auto shot with global variables and use this perfect aim function on your hunters. What it does is it waits until you've fired your auto shot, and within half a second of you firing your auto shot, it will do an aim shot, and after that it'll do multi-shot. It's a DPS adder. That's the idea. It works best with hunter weapons that are 3 seconds or slower. Those are very rare. I don't have one yet. But if you can find a hunter weapon that's 3 seconds or slower, this will work very well with it. Anyway, it's not standalone, but kind of proud of it because it works pretty well. It does not work in situations where the hunter needs a path to the target. So if your pet can't get to the target, you will not aim shot with this macro. So not sure if it's a macro bug or a VG bug. You might want my feed pet add-on. Check out my feed pet stuff. One button feed pet. It only feeds your pet if he's not happy. And Most of this other stuff is class related, you know, specific class related. And then I've got my Lua utilities that I wrote or stole from the internet. And then there's a bunch of unused code at the end at about line 5586. There's code I don't use anymore. I've tried it, I've tested it, and you know, these are experiments that went wrong. Is that true? I guess it's not true. Ignore that. I've got some extremely important code down here. My crowd control code, which is the best in the game. Invented here. It used to be unused, but it's used now. It's used to great effect now. And I'm going to make another video about that. Alright guys, that's all I got for you. Try SuperMacro. Steal my functions and give it a shot.